July 23rd. Dear Diary, Gramps had a little heart attack last night. Thank goodness it happened just as I was getting ready to go out and it wasn't really serious. Poor Gran is pretty much by herself, but she's staying calm on the outside anyway. They haven't bugged me at all since I've been here, and they've been so delighted that I'm having a good time and that I've met a lot of friends that they stay completely out of my way. Dear hearted square souls, if they only really knew what was happening, their eyebrows would be shocked up in the middle of their heads. Gramps' attack only means that he'll be bedridden for a few weeks, but I'll have to really be careful that I don't cause any extra trouble so that they'll want to send me home. Maybe if I start helping more around the house, they'll even think they need me. I hope nothing happens to Gramps. I love him so much. I know sometime he and Gran will have to die, but I hope it isn't for a very, very long time yet. It's strange, but I've never thought much about dying till now. I suppose someday even I will have to die. I wonder if there really is a life after death. Oh, I do hope there is, but that isn't the part that really worries me. Actually, I know that our souls will go up back to God, but when I think about our bodies being buried in the dark, cold ground and being eaten by worms and rotting, I can hardly stand the thought. I think I'd rather be cremated. Yes, I would. I definitely would. I'm going to ask Mom and Dad and the kids as soon as I get home to be sure and have me cremated when I die. They will. They're a sweet and wonderful and good family, and I love them, and I'm lucky to have them. I must remember to write to them again this very day. I haven't been too good about writing, and I simply must be better. And I think I'll tell them I want to come home now, right now. I want to get away from Bill and Jill and all the others. I don't know why I shouldn't use drugs, because they're wild and they're beautiful and they're wonderful, but I know I shouldn't, and I won't. I won't ever again. I hereby solemnly promise that I will from this very day forward live so that everyone I know can be proud of me and so that I can be proud of myself. July 25th. Gramps is getting along fine. I've done all the cooking and cleaning and everything so Gran can just stay with him all the time. They really appreciate it, and I appreciate them. 6:30. Jill called and invited me to a party, but I told her I'm committed to my grandparents till things are better. I'm glad I had an excuse for not going. July 28th. Mom and Dad have been calling every day since Gramps had his attack. They asked me if I wanted to come home, and I really do, but I feel I should stay here till at least next week and help. August 2nd. I'm getting bored to the teeth, but at least I'm giving moral support to Gran, and after all she's done for me all my life, that's the least I can do. Bill called again and asked me for a date, and Gran insists that I get out, so I guess I'll go with him, but I'll just babysit if he wants to trip. August 3rd. Bill had 6 kids over to his house last night. His folks had gone to the city, so they wouldn't be back till 1 or 2. They were all going to trip on acid, and since I'd been cooped up for so long, I decided I might as well take one last trip too. I'm certainly not going to use any of the stuff when I get home. It was groovy, even greater than the others. I don't see how each trip can be better than the one before, but they are. I sat for hours examining the exoticness and the magnificence of my right hand. I could see the muscles and the cells and the pores. Each blood vessel was a fascination unto itself, and my mind still flutters with the wonder of it all. August 6th. Well, last night it happened. I'm no longer a virgin. In a way, I'm really sorry because I always wanted Roger to be the first and only boy in my life, but he's away visiting. In fact, I haven't seen him since I got here. He might have grown into a gawky, stupid, rambling idiot anyway. I wonder if sex without acid could be so exciting, so wonderful, so indescribable. I always thought it just took a minute, or that it would be like dogs mating, but it wasn't like that at all. Actually, last night it took me a long time to get started on the trip. I just sat in the corner feeling left out and sort of antagonistic. Then suddenly it happened, and I wanted to dance wildly and make love. I hadn't known that I even felt that way about Bill. He had seemed a nice, quiet person who took care of me when I needed support. But suddenly, I didn't have any inhibitions about trying to seduce him. Not that he needed much pressure. Actually, it still doesn't seem quite real. All my life, I've thought that the first time I had sex with someone, it would be something special, and maybe even painful. But it turned out to just be part of the brilliant, freaky way out forever pattern. I still can't quite separate one thing from another. I wonder if all the kids had sex, but no, that's just too awfully animal and indecent. I wonder how shocked Roger would be if he knew, and my parents and Tim and Alex and Gramps and Gran. I think they would be mortified, but no more than I am. Maybe I even really love Bill, but right now I can hardly even remember what he looks like. Oh, I'm so horribly, nauseously mixed up, and what if I'm pregnant? Oh, how I wish I had anyone to talk with who knows what they're talking about. I hadn't thought about being pregnant before. Can it happen the first time? Will Bill marry me if I am, or will he just think I'm an easy little dum-dum who makes it with everyone? Of course he won't marry me. He's only 15 years old. I guess I'll just have to have an abortion or something. I certainly couldn't stand it if I had to leave school like blank did last year. The kids talked about absolutely nothing else for weeks. Oh God, please, please make me not pregnant. I'm going to call Mom right now. I'll get Gran to buy a ticket, and I'm going to go home tomorrow. I hate this rotten place, and I hate Bill Thompson and all that crowd. I don't know how I ever got mixed up with them, but I was so pleased and felt so smart when they accepted me, and now I feel miserable and ashamed, as though that's going to do any good. August 7th. Mom and Dad think I should wait until next week to come home. I couldn't really argue because Gran needs me, but in the meantime, I'm not going to answer the phone or step off our property. Later. Jill called, but I told Gran to tell her I wasn't feeling well. It's pretty obvious, even to Gran, that I'm really not. I'm living with doubts and apprehensions and fears that I never dreamed possible. August 9th. The world has actually stopped in its orbit. My life is completely over. After dinner, when Gran and I were sitting out in the garden, we heard tappings at the back gate, and guess who of all people in the universe stopped by? Roger and his mom and dad. They got back in the afternoon and heard about Gramps' sickness and had dropped by to visit him. I was beside myself. Roger is even more breathtakingly good-looking than ever, and I wanted to throw myself in his arms and cry my heart out to him. Instead, we shook hands and I hurried to get everybody something to drink. Later, after we'd all talked for a while, Gran sent me in to get some chips and dip, and Roger followed me. Can you imagine Roger following me? He even asked me out. I wanted to die right then and there, and later when we went out in the garden, he started telling me about how he was going to military school for the next year and a half, till he was ready for college. He even said he was a little frightened and lonely about going away by himself for the first time. And he even told me how he wanted to become an aeronautical engineer and work on new techniques for air travel. He's got some wonderful ideas. It's almost like reading Jules Verne, and he has so many plans for his life, with the army and all. Then he kissed me, and it was what I had always dreamed it would be since I was in kindergarten. Other boys have kissed me, but it wasn't the same at all. This was fondness, and liking, and desire, and regard, and admiration, and affection, and tenderness, and attachment, and yearning. It was the most wonderful thing that has ever happened in my life. But now I'm sitting here, and I feel sick to my stomach. What if he finds out what I've been doing since I got here? How could he ever forgive me? How could he ever understand? Would he? If I were only a Catholic, maybe I could do some kind of terrible penance to pay for my transgressions. I was brought up to believe that God would forgive people's sins, but how can I forgive myself? How could Roger forgive me? Oh, terrors, horrors, endless torment. August 10th. Roger has called 4 times today, but I refuse to talk to him. Gran and Gramps want me to stay over a few days until I feel better, but I can't. I simply can't face Roger again until I get my thinking straightened out. Oh, how did I ever get mixed up in such a mess? Imagine losing my virginity 4 nights before seeing Roger again. This awful irony of it. But even without that, would he have understand the acid trips? Would he have wanted me after those? I hadn't really cared before, but I care now, and it's too late. I must talk to someone. I must find someone who understands about drugs and talk to them. I wonder if I could talk to someone at Dad's university. Oh, no. They'd be bound to tell him, and then I'd be in a really big mess. Maybe I could say I was doing a paper on drugs for a science project or something, but I can't do that until school starts. I think I'd better take some of Gramps' sleeping pills. I'm never going to be able to sleep without them. In fact, I think I'd better take a supply of them. He's got plenty, and I'm sure I'll have a few bad nights at home before I get straightened out. Oh, I hope it's just a few. August 13th. It's all I can do to keep from crying. Mom and Dad just called to say how proud they are to have me for a daughter. There are no words to express how I feel. August 14th. Gran took me to the plane. She thinks Roger and I had a quarrel. She kept telling me everything would be all right and that it is women's place to be long-suffering and patient and tolerant and understanding. Oh, if she only knew. Mom and Dad and Tim and Alex met me and told me how pale and wan I looked. They were ever so gentle and loving. It's good to be home. I must forget about everything. I must repent and forgive myself and start over. After all, I just turned 15 and I can't stop life and get off. Besides, since I've thought about Gramps dying, I don't want to die. I'm afraid. Isn't that ghastly and ironic? I'm afraid to live and afraid to die, just like the old Negro spiritual. I wonder what their hang-up was. August 16th. Mother is making me eat. She's fixing all my favorite foods, but they still don't taste like much. Roger wrote me a long letter asking me if I was all right, but I simply haven't had the energy or the strength or the desire to answer him. Everyone is terribly worried about me, and in fact, I'm even terribly worried about myself. I still don't know if I'm pregnant and won't know for another 10 or 12 days. Oh, I pray I'm not. I keep asking myself how I could have been such an idiot, a stupid, bungling, senseless, foolish, ignorant idiot. August 17th. I have used the last of Gramps' sleeping pills, and I'm a wreck. I can't sleep, and I'm all screwed up, and Mom is insisting that I go see Dr. Langley. Maybe that will help. I'll do anything. August 18th. I went to see Dr. Langley this morning, and I really laid it on about my not being able to sleep. He asked me a lot of questions about why I couldn't sleep, but I just kept repeating, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Finally, he broke down and gave me the pills. Actually, I don't need the sleep as much as I need the escape. It's a wonderful way to escape. I think I can't stand it, and then I just take a pill and wait for sweet nothingness to take over. At this stage in life, nothingness is a lot better than somethingness. August 20th. I don't think the sleeping pills Dr. Langley gave me are strong as the ones Gramp had, because I take 2 of these and sometimes even 3. Maybe it's because I'm so nervous. Anyway, I don't know how much longer I can last. If something doesn't happen soon, I think I'm going to blow my brains out. August 22nd. I had Mom call Dr. Langley, and I'm going to ask him for some tranquilizers. I can't sleep all day long, and I certainly can't walk around like this, so I hope he gives them to me. He's got to. August 23rd. Tranquilizers are the greatest. This afternoon, I took one just before the mailman's arrival with another letter from Roger. Instead of getting all upset, I sat down and poured my whole soul out to him. Nothing, of course, about my acid trips or the speed, and surely not about Bill and my possible condition, but just about the important things that concern us both. I have even begun to wonder if maybe I could turn Roger on just once so he would understand. Could I? Could I make him his first trip annoyingly as I did? Oh, I wish I dared. It seems like I've been held down for so long. Maybe it's the sleeping pills and the tranquilizers, but there are moments when I'd really like to just burst loose, but I guess those days are gone forever. I'm really confused. I wish I had someone to talk to. August 26th. What a wonderful, beautiful, happy day. My period started. I was never so happy for anything in my life. Now I can throw away my sleeping pills and tranquilizers. I can be me again. Oh, wow. September 6th. Beth came back from camp, but she's hardly the same person, and she met some Jewish jerk that she's going steady with. They are going to be together all the time, day and night. Perhaps I'm a little jealous because Roger lives so far away and school has started, and Alex and her noisy little friends are driving me crazy, and Mom has begun to get on my back too. Today, I went down to this great little boutique and found a cute pair of moccasins and a vest with fringe and a really great pair of pants. Chris, the girl who works there, showed me how to iron my hair, which I did tonight, and now it's perfectly straight. It's the greatest except that Mom couldn't stand it. I went downstairs to show her, and she said I looked like a hippie and that she and Dad and I must have a little talk some evening. I could tell them a thing or two because I imagine that sex without drugs isn't even the same thing as the mad forever wonder of it when you're really way out there. Anyway, I seem to be doing less and less right. I'm getting so that no matter what I do, I can't please the establishment. September 7th. Last night was the bitter end. Mom and Dad flowed tears and flowers about how they love me and how worried they've been about my attitude since I got back from Grand's. They hate my hair, which they still want me to wear in a flip like the kiddies, and they talked and talked and talked, but never once did they even hear one thing I was trying to say to them. In fact, at the beginning, when they were telling me about their deep concern, I had the overwhelming desire to break down and tell them everything. I wanted to tell them. I wanted more than anything in the world to know that they understood, but naturally, they just kept on talking and talking because they are incapable of really understanding anything. If only parents would listen. If only they would let us talk instead of forever and eternally and continuously harping and preaching and nagging and correcting and yakking. But they won't listen. They simply won't or can't or don't want to listen. And we kids keep winding up back in the same old frustrating, lost, lonely corner with no one to relate to, either verbally or physically. However, I'm lucky I have Roger, if I really have him. September 9th. Another sock in the belly day. Roger is definitely going to that military school, and the first time he'll be home is Christmas, and maybe not even then. His dad went there, and his grandfather did too, so I guess he's almost obligated to go, but I need him here, not there in that idiot school marching around for a whole year. Now we'll be a whole continent away. I wrote him a 10-page letter telling him I'll wait for him, even though in his last letter he told me that he expected me to date and have fun. But how can I have fun in this hole? September 10th. I was so depressed about Roger that I walked down to look at clothes in the boutique where Chris works. It was almost her coffee break, so we went next door to have a Coke, and I told her how low I was because of Roger. She immediately understood. It was great to have someone again that I could talk to. When we got back to the store, she gave me a little red candy type thing and told me to go home, take it, and listen to some groovy music. She said, "This heart will pep you up like tranquilizers, slow you down." And you know she was right. I've been using too many sleeping pills and too many tranquilizers. I don't know why that dumb doctor didn't give me something to make me feel better instead of something to make me feel worse. I've been feeling great all afternoon, feeling like living again. I've washed my hair and cleaned my room and ironed and done all the things that Mom has been nagging me to do for days. The only problem is that now it's night and I can't seem to turn the energy off. I'd stay up and write to Roger, but I just wrote him a giant letter yesterday and he'd think I was some kind of nut. I guess I'll just have to waste one of my good sleeping pills to stop it. That's life. See ya. September 12th. Dad and Mom are constantly harping about the way I look. They keep saying that they know I'm a good, sweet girl, but I'm beginning to act like a hippie, and they're afraid the wrong kind of people will be drawn to me. What it amounts to is they are so ultra-conservative that they don't know what's happening. Chris and I talk a lot about our parents and the establishment. Her dad is an executive with a breakfast food company, and he travels a lot, often in the company of other women. She confided me. And her mom is such a devoted club and civic-minded woman that the whole town would probably fall flat on its face if she took an evening off to listen to her daughter. Mom's the pillar of society in this town, Chris told me. She holds up everybody and everything but me, and man have I been let down. Chris doesn't need to work, but she just simply can't stand it around her house. I told her I was beginning to feel the same way, and she's going to try and get me a job with her. Isn't that the greatest? September 13th. Wow, I'm really living. I have a job. Chris asked her boss last night, and he said yes. Isn't that the greatest? I'll be working with Chris on Thursday nights and on Friday nights and all day Saturday, and I'll be able to buy anything my non-conforming little heart desires. Chris is a year older than I am, and she's a year ahead in school. But she really is a great girl, and I love her and relate better to her than I ever have with anyone in my life, even Beth. I suspect she knows a little about drugs because she's given me hearts a couple of times when I've been really low. Someday, soon, I've really got to talk to her about these things. September 21st. Dear friend diary, I'm sorry I've been neglecting you, but I've really been busy with my new job and school starting and all. And you still are my very dearest friend and closest confidant. Even though I really am tuned in and received well with Chris, We even get tired, and she and I are two of the most popular girls at school. I know I look great. I'm still down at 103 pounds, and every time I get hungry or tired, I just pop a Benny. We've got energy and vitality to spare and clothes like man. My hair is the greatest. I wash it in mayonnaise, and it's shining and soft enough to make anyone turn on. I still haven't met a guy I really dig, but that's probably alright because I'm waiting for Roger. September 23rd. Diary. My parents are absolutely and positively going to make me blow my mind. I have to take Dexies to stay high at school and at work and on dates and to do my homework. Then I have to take tranquilizers to bear up at home. Daddy thinks I'm blowing his image at the college dean. He even yelled at me at the table last night for saying man. He has his words when he wants to stress a point, and that is alright, but let me say man and you'd think I had committed the unpardonable sin. Chris and I are about ready to cut out. She has a friend in San Francisco who could help us get a job, and since we both have experience in a boutique, it shouldn't be that hard. Besides, her parents are about ready for a divorce. They do nothing but fight when they are together, and she's had it. At least, I don't have to put up with that. Also, Roger says he's too busy to write much, which is an unlikely story. Like Chris says, a man's blood soon runs cold when there is no one around to warm it up. September 26th. Last night was the night, friend. I finally smoked pot and it was even greater than I expected. Last night after work, Chris fixed me up with a college friend of hers who knew I'd been on acid, etc., but who wanted to turn me on to hash. He told me not to expect to feel like I felt with liquor, and I told him I've never had more than champagne at birthday parties and leftovers from cocktail parties. We all got hilarious over that, and Ted, Chris's date, said that lots of kids never try booze, not only because it's their parents' thing, but because it's a lot harder to get than pot. Ted said that when he first started experimenting, he found he could steal a lot of money from his parents and they would never miss it, but let him take one swig out of any of their booze bottles and it was as though they had measured it to the ounce. Then Richie showed me how to smoke, and I've never even had a cigarette. He gave me a small orientation lecture, like I should listen for small things I wouldn't ordinarily hear and just relax. At first, I took too deep a drag and almost choked to death, so Richie told me to suck in open-mouthed gulps to mix as much air in as possible. But that didn't work too well either, and after a while, Ted gave up and brought out a hookah pipe. It seemed funny and exotic, but at first I couldn't get any smoke and I felt cheated because the other three were obviously stoned. But finally it started to work. Just when I thought it never would, and I really began to feel happy and free as a bright canary chirping through the open, endless heavens, and I was so relaxed. I don't think I've been that relaxed in my entire life. It was really beautiful. Later, Rich brought a sheepskin rug out his room, and we began walking through the thickness of it, and there was a sensation in my feet that was totally indescribable, a softness that enveloped my complete body, and quite suddenly I could hear the strange, almost silent sound of the long, silky hairs rubbing against each other and against my feet. It was a sound unsimilar to any I have ever heard, and I remember trying desperately to give a dissertation upon a phenomena of each individual hair having perfect pitch within itself, but of course I couldn't. It was too perfect. Then I picked up a salted peanut and noticed that nothing had ever tasted so salty before. It felt like being a child again and trying to swim in the Great Salt Lake. Only the peanut was even saltier. My liver and my spleen and my intestines were corroded with salt. I longed to taste a fresh peach or strawberry or have the flavor of sweetness and delectableness of them consume me also. It was great and I began to laugh in a totally mad way. I was delighted that I was so different. Everyone in the whole universe was mad except me. I was the only sane and perfect being. Somewhere in my brain I remembered reading that 1,000 years with a man is a day with the Lord, and I had found the answer. I was even now in my new time length, living the lives of 1,000 men in the space of hours. Later we were all very thirsty and dying for something sweet, so we walked to the ice cream shop, joking about the incredible high curbs and the unbelievable oddly shaped moon, which kept changing shapes and colors. I don't know if we were really as high as we said we were, but it was fun. And in the restaurant, we joked and laughed as though the whole world and its secrets belonged to us alone. When Richie brought me home about midnight, my parents, who were both up, were very pleased with a nice, young, clean cut, gentlemanly young man I was going out with. They didn't even complain about what time it was. Can you believe it? P.S. Richie gave me some joints to smoke when I'm alone, and I want to be in heaven. Isn't that nice, nice, nice? October 5th. Chris and I are thinking about quitting our jobs because it's getting so that we don't have any time for what we want to do. I'm deeply in love with Richie, and Chris is in love with Ted, and we want to spend as much time with them as we can. The bitch is that none of us ever seem to have enough money, so Chris and I have both had to push a little pot. Of course, we only sell it to the kids who are heavy users and who would just buy it from someone else if they didn't get it from us. Ted and Richie are in college, and they have to work a lot harder than we do in high school, so they don't have the time to sell. And besides, it's a lot easier for guys to get busted than for girls. At first, it was pretty hard to keep my cool around the establishment, but since I'm now Richie's chick all the way, I have to do what I can to help him. October 8th. I convinced Rich that it would be easier to push acid than pot. At least we can put it on penny stamps or gum or lifesavers and carry them around with us without having the fuzz breathing down our necks or having some idiot Fink find out where or what our bag is. Richie is so good to me, and sex with him is like lightning and rainbows and springtime. I may just be chipping around with drugs, but I'm really hooked on that boy. We would do absolutely anything for each other. He's going into medicine, and I've got to help him any way I can. It's going to be a long, hard pull, but we'll make it. Imagine 8 or 10 more years of school for him, and he's already in his second year of college. Mom and Dad think he's still in high school. I think I won't go on to college. Dad will just curl up and die, but it's more important for me to work and help Rich. As soon as I'm out of high school, I'll get a full-time job and we'll settle down. He's been a straight A student, but he says he's slipping a little. I really love that man. Oh, I really truly do. I can't wait to get to him. He teases me and says I'm oversexed because I've been bugging him to let me try sex without being stoned first. He's promised me he will. It will be almost like a new experience. I can hardly wait. Richie and I never go anywhere. It's almost a ritual for him to pick me up and spend a few minutes with my parents and then rush over to the apartment he shares with Ted. I really wish we could be together stoned every night, but he only lets me come over when he restocks my acid supply and gives me enough grass and barbs to last me until I see him again. I know he's studying very hard, so I try to content myself with what he can give me of himself, which seems to be getting less and less. Maybe I am oversexed. At least I seem to be a lot more interested in it than he is, but that's only because he worries so much about me. I wish he'd let me take the pill, and I wish he didn't have to work and study so hard. Oh well, what I've got is so great, I don't know how I could even wish for anything more. October 17th. Today I went to the grade school again. I don't mind pushing at high school because the stuff is sometimes kind of hard to get, and the kids usually come up and ask me for it. Chris and I just supply it from Richie. He can get whatever is their bag, barbs, or pot, or amphetamines of LSD or DMT or meth or anything. The high school kids are one thing, and even the junior high, but today I sold 10 stamps of LSD to a little kid at grade school who was not even 9 years old, I'm sure. I know that he, in turn, must be pushing, and these kids are just too young. The thought of 9 and 10-year-olds getting wasted is so repulsive that I'm not going over there anymore. I know if they want it, they'll get it somewhere, but they won't get it from me. I've been lying here on my bed ever since I got home from school, thinking about it, and I've decided that Richie must come over and see Dad about a scholarship. Surely with his grades and background, something could be worked out. I'm sure it could.